Welcome back to Around the SEC. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, along with Corey Burton and Jeb Beecham. We're here to lead you through all the action this weekend, kind of go back to what just happened, and basically be your all-around source for SEC during this weekend. Guys, how's it going?
It's going, man. Another week in the books, another week exciting coming up. Here we get to the point where we're almost done with the season. So just ready to get this thing rocking and rolling, man.
And with all the rescheduling of games, it's been really interesting the last week or two trying to figure out how the season is going to end for the SEC. But I've been enjoying watching it. It's been a good time. Glad to be back.
Yeah, Ole Miss is one of the ones affected this weekend. They were supposed to play LSU, but they could not skirt the Alabama whooping that was coming to LSU this weekend. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk to everybody. Derek Mason is out. He's been there 7 years. It feels like he's been there 20. The team finally kind of quit on him this weekend. And what do you think about that Vandy job, and where do you think they're going to go?
Well, I think the Vandy job can be very sneakily a good job if the administration would ever figure out that they can actually do some good things there, because you're sitting in a great city, a great destination city now, one of the hottest cities in the country to move to, Nashville. You're in a area that's becoming more and more talent rich seems like each and every month at the rate people are moving in. But if you ever get an administration that seems to buy in to football, which they haven't yet, you could end up in a pretty good job, kind of like what Duke was for basketball back in the early 80s when they hired some guy named Mike with a bunch of consonants in his name. Forget his name. I think it's Mike Krzyzewski, something like that. They can kind of blow the lid off the football program if they could make some sort of bombshell hire like that. But as far as who I think they're going to get, the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, his name escapes me for some reason.
Barclay.
There you go. And then I think Billy Napier should be in play. But if I'm Vanderbilt, I'm going all out on two guys. I'm going all out on Sark, and I'm going all out on Jamie Chadwell. And Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina would be a grand slam for Vanderbilt if they can land him.
Do you think he'd want to come there, though? And the only reason I ask is because, like you said, the administration doesn't really seem to make athletics a priority at Vanderbilt. It's not a job where you're not going to come in and expect to win the SEC. A winning record would be a great season as a head coach at Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
it could be a good stepping stone to a better job like James Franklin used it if you actually do well there.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's a difficult place, a difficult situation to come into if you're already somebody that is being talked about to be a head coach somewhere big eventually anyway, like Jamie Chadwell. I could see someone like Clark Leah, however you say it, better because, like I said, I think he's from Nashville, so he knows the area real well, played at Vanderbilt a bit. So, and he's not somebody that a lot of people are talking about right now as being a head coach right now, but he's certainly one that I think a lot of people will be looking at eventually. So I could see this being a good stepping stone for him coming to Vanderbilt if he can do well here. And by well, I mean just not embarrassing.
Yeah, those are great names. I'd like to leave you with two more. Vanderbilt has had two successful periods in their history. One was by Coach McIntyre, Mike McIntyre's dad. So I think Mike McIntyre is in play. And the other one is when James Franklin was here, and a person on his staff was Josh Gaddis at Michigan, and he's about to lose his job. So those are two names to keep an eye on for this search.
That would be that would be a home run too. I think Josh Gaddis, I don't know if the reason why things are going south for him at Michigan are Harbaugh related, or are they exacerbated by some of the shortcomings that he's had. I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors in play when you look at that, and so I think you have to kind of weigh out all the options and really kind of figure out if he's the right guy for the job. I think he's been there before. He knows what the lay of the land is at the university, so I think that would be a good hire. I think he's a talented guy. It's hard to tell honestly, but I think there's some potential there for sure.
Yeah, and it's turning out to me personally. I mean, other people would think other thing. The Vanderbilt job opening is much more interesting to me than the South Carolina opening for some reason.
Yeah, it is. Because I think, you look at Nashville and what Vanderbilt could be, what everybody knows Vanderbilt could be, is the reason why I think you feel that way.
Indeed. And moving down, we had a Egg Bowl that took place over the weekend. Ole Miss 31, Mississippi State 24. It was an interesting game. Matt Corral kind of balled out in the second half. Ole Miss just kind of, I don't want to say took their hands off the reins, but they played much more conservatively in the second half because they understood that the only way they were going to lose that game is if they give it away.
See, I thought when I was watching the game, and but it just never seemed to happen. It was like you were having trouble putting for some reason, getting that ball in the hole. But and Mississippi State, to their credit, was doing a pretty good job of sticking around. But
I'm getting the visual now.
I don't know why I was thinking that, and I apologize. I know that's not flattering, but I mean, I never really thought, Ole Miss is going to lose this. I wasn't watching that game. That Hail Mary at the end had me a little worried, but other than that, I really didn't think it was going to be a game that you were going to lose. I just kept expecting Ole Miss to just run away at some point, and they never did.
Yeah, Mississippi State made the two stops on fourth down. If Ole Miss makes both of them, it's 28 or 35-7 in the first half, and it's a completely different story. And as it stands, Ole Miss just won the game, and they were the better team. They were the most explosive team. And basically, when I watch a football game, the thing that I look for is which team is it easier for? Which team is it more fluid with? And everything Mississippi State did was a chore, even against Ole Miss's defense, which has been a weak point this year. So it was fun to watch. It was a nice competitive game. Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, and it was a lot of fun.
I think Mississippi State has found them somebody in Will Rogers. I think he's extremely talented quarterback, and the future is bright for him in this conference. I think it's going to be fun in the state of Mississippi. I loved how Lane Kiffin was not going to make a big deal about the game, but he showed up in an A.J. Brown jersey with the "We Run the SIP."
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, you had people, reporters in the game just trying to do the narrative that Lane Kiffin was above this, and with Mike Leach, this was going to be a different Egg Bowl. When
it's different.
Yeah, but I mean, Lane Kiffin is the king of the trolls. Of course, he was going to troll.
Yeah, and that's okay. And I think Mike Leach goes along with it quite well. I think they're both very good for this rivalry and for each other, because I think they just have fun with it, man. Just watching those two teams play is a lot of fun, and you can tell that there's a lot of passion and energy within those two programs. It's just how these two programs decide to build is really kind of where we're at. And so I think for Mike Leach, I think when he finally gets the people in that he wants, that he needs, you're going to see a totally different Mississippi State team.
Yeah, indeed. That is segment one, our review segment, looking at last weekend's games and last weekend's news right here and around the SEC. Stick around. We'll be back with a lot more good stuff.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to Around the SEC with Corey Burton and Jeff Beecham. I hope you are having a great weekend wherever you're driving to listen to the game. Hopefully this will be your primer for the weekend that will be. No need to dance around it. Texas A&M and Auburn. This is a game that Auburn traditionally kind of wins. Texas A&M. It's kind of an elimination game for the college football playoff. This could be an exciting game, and I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those where this game can't be taken for granted. I know LSU's playing like complete garbage right now, but this game for A&M can't be taken for granted because so much is on the line with the college football playoff and what's going on with that. So I think with A&M, I think when you look at keys to the game, you have to say A&M, just do what you've been doing, run the ball with Isaiah Spiller, get Kellen Mond comfortable. I think he kind of had a rough go last week. And it really just a lot of rust and not playing for a couple of weeks kind of did him poorly. So I think that just getting him back in the groove will do Texas A&M's offense a lot of wonders. And of course, they can lean on Isaiah Spiller when all else fails.
And I think you're right about the playoffs. This puts a lot of pressure on A&M, and I think Alabama did that because they did so well against Auburn, and they'll be in the playoffs. So if A&M wants to make a case that they should be there, they need to be able to do as well, or at least semi-well against Auburn as well. But that's what I love about the SEC is you just never know. Auburn they did not look good against Alabama at all, but they could step it up this week and give A&M fits, and I think it would definitely hurt A&M's chances of getting into the playoffs.
Indeed. Let's go up to Columbia, Missouri, Arkansas and Missouri. A border war. This has a chance to be a fun game. You have Connor Bazelak, Felipe Franks. You got a running game support and developing in Arkansas, very good in Mizzou. And you got a defense that's coming just different styles, but also Barry Odom knows the personnel very well, and they know Barry Odom pretty well. This is going to be a fun game.
Yeah, I think so. I think with Arkansas playing the way they're playing, I think with some of the COVID issues they went through, there are some struggles. And, they did kind of play like what we thought they were going to play like at the beginning of the year. So, but one of the things that's they just lay down and quit. That's definitely not the case now, and they have a defense that can overcome Felipe Franks doing Felipe Franks things. Like against Ole Miss when they force 7 turnovers. I mean, they do things like that where they can really kind of control the ball with you, and then they have a good running game. They have the Treylon Burks and Smith that are some weapons offensively for them. They just got to continue to figure out what they can do and what they can't do, and they just gotta learn more about themselves, and they just got to continue to play the way they've been playing. And I think Barry Odom has had them playing very inspired football. So the Hogs haven't let me down much this year. The refs have thought otherwise, but I think this is a very intriguing matchup because it's two teams you're kind of still trying to figure out what's the direction of these two programs. both have had COVID issues. Both have had, their fair share of things happening. But, it's going to be exciting just because of the mystery that's going to unfold with this matchup.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. I didn't really know much to add because you're right. Missouri was a team I expected to be better at the beginning of the year. They were rough, but they've certainly pulled it together and are getting better every week. Arkansas, I did not expect anything out of, and they've been a surprise. We've said that multiple weeks there already on the show. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I like Missouri's offense a lot with Basilek really coming into his own, and that's how you say it. I'm not sure. And then Roundtree running really well. So and of course we've already talked about Felipe Franks. I agree with you. It's just going to be a fun game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Unfortunately, our third game that we're going to go over, Vanderbilt at Georgia, is not going to be a great game. Basically, the only thing I can say is Georgia should use this as a service team to get JT Daniels more comfortable in the offense.
Yeah, I think so. But then again, anytime Georgia's faced with a spread that's in the 20s, much less the 30s, they've said, we're not going to cover this. Oh, my gosh. They start freaking out. And I don't really understand it because this is a game that they could probably cover. They could probably double the spread if they really wanted to. But it just, I don't know. It's a weird game. Vanderbilt's in a weird place right now. But I think there's a lot that can happen with this. And so I'm excited to kind of see what they bring to the table and what they can do, how can they further develop JT Daniels. They still have a game with Missouri left that's on the makeup slate. So I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see the direction of the program and kind of see where they're at. Can they get the passing game and the running game going in the same game? Can they show a little bit more balance now that they made up for their absolutely abysmal running game against Mississippi State? So they're just continuing to get guys healthy, continuing to just develop everything and develop these young receivers. And the only way you can do that is live game reps.
Yeah, I know we talk a lot about being big fans of Kenny Stills, and I do like him. I think he can have a decent game. The problem is he's playing one of the best defenses right now this week, and I don't think Vanderbilt's going to have a very good week. And then with everything else going on there, it seems like their focus may not be quite there. Although they do have a new kicker, and I'm happy to see her do well. I guess they didn't really score, but they tried.
Yeah, it was a kickoff squib kick.
They couldn't even get close enough to attempt a field goal.
I know it's going to be a rough weekend for them.
Yeah. One thing that the SEC, I think, probably should be ashamed of is the fact that she was named co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Week for a squib kick on a kickoff.
Oh.
That's a little bit too far. I mean, God bless her. She needs to go out and succeed, but let's not lower the standard of the award just to get a PR bump, because that's what that definitely felt like, is just a PR bump. And I'm just talking about after the fact, the SEC giving that award away.
Yeah, that's what that was, I think, unfortunately. And so, I don't know, man. You got to just – I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We probably won't even go there. And one question I do have to ask is Georgia versus MSU. When they played a couple of weeks back, we haven't done a show since then. Have you seen a bigger coaching malpractice than not running tempo against 49 scholarship players?
No, I think we should have. I mean, that would have been a perfect place to see if we could do tempo. And I think we definitely missed one there for sure.
Absolutely. That is the end of the segment. End of segment 2 right here on Around the SEC. When we come back, we're going to go over a little Tennessee, Florida, a little South Carolina, and Kentucky, and the biggest potential beatdown of the weekend. I know we've already said the Vandy, Georgia game. Stick around for that all Around the SEC.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese. We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop. Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to Around the SEC. We're continuing on for this weekend's games. Tennessee versus Florida. Florida going up to Rocky Top. Harrison Bailey could have an extended run. He could have a little run. Jeremy Pruitt is saying he doesn't really know how much he's going to play, just that the young kid is going to play. That adds a little bit of intrigue into this game that otherwise, honestly, was not there.
Unfortunately, I agree. We already are having problems on defense. We just lost probably our top pass rusher due to a small case of being a drug dealer. Now we're talking about throwing in our just gonna skip over that one a little bit, but just now we're talking about throwing in our 5-star quarterback who should have been playing weeks ago with no experience against Florida. I don't know what's going on there at Tennessee or what Coach Pruitt's plan is and what exactly he's doing at this point. I've just stopped trying to figure it out.
Well, they're not bringing back the wins, but they're apparently bringing back the Fulmer Cup.
Yes, that was extremely disappointing and surprising to read that article about him getting pulled over with a gun and drugs.
I think they took Champions of Life the wrong way.
I think his dad had played in the NFL. I mean, how?
I don't know. I mean, that could be.
I don't know what kind of NFL career he would have had, or chance in the NFL he'd had, but now there's none.
No, there's not.
Well, that is going to be an interesting game. At least we'll get to see a little bit of the young kid. Hopefully Tennessee can keep it close. Florida's offense is quite good. Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts is back.
Man.
Yeah, they got a couple of 5-stars out wide. They're both 6'5". They're really a handful to deal with, and that's who LSU has next week. Yeah,
and I think that's the problem is Tennessee's not going to be able to really run their game plan once they get behind 2 or 3 touchdowns. And so now you're going to ask the true freshman, go out there and throw every play. Good luck. I don't know. And he didn't say that he was starting, so maybe he's not. We honestly have no idea, like I said, what's going to happen as far as who's going to play and when.
Yeah, the problem is that Jeremy Pruitt went out and hired Jim Chaney. I don't know what it is with former Saban defensive coordinators wanting that guy, but the game has moved past Jim Chaney.
It has. I mean, he does a good job game planning, or used to. I don't know. Yeah, I think they definitely need to make a change there because the quarterback's not getting developed. That's for sure. And so I don't know, man. It's you got to figure out something.
Yeah, it cost Will Muschamp his job by thinking that we can go back to that style of offense. I mean, it literally cost him his job this year. Mike Bobo is a good coordinator, but you can't play that way in college football. The game has changed.
Exactly.
Speaking of Mike Bobo, he's leading the South Carolina Gamecocks into Lexington, Kentucky to play the Kentucky Wildcats.
The Fighting Bobos.
The Fighting Bobos. This game, I don't honestly, I don't know on this game. Kentucky's going to run the ball, play keep away. Terry Wilson can't really throw the ball. Nobody can really throw the ball except for the true freshman, and he is a true freshman. South Carolina has both their corners opted out, and they play old man football on offense. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a game where that team is going to win. The team is going to win, and the other team is going to lose, and one team is going to score some points, and the other team probably won't. There's my analysis. No, in all seriousness, I think you got to lean on the team in this matchup that has the better defense because of the old man style that both teams employ. One, because that's kind of where they are, and the other one because they absolutely have to because, well, they have no quarterback. And Eddie Gran is another guy that probably needs to look at moving on elsewhere in college football because he is the game has passed him by at the University of Kentucky as well. So you hate to see that, but it's the truth. So for Kentucky, they just got to find some sort of something that they can hang their hat on, and they got to do something. I don't know what that is. But I just think it's going to come down to whoever turns the ball over less, whatever. If there's a team that can force, that can steal a possession in special teams, is there a team that plays a cleaner ball game? I mean, I'm just grasping at straws here. I feel like with this matchup, and so I think it's something you just gotta take into account and just say, throw your hands up and say, well. There's a reason why this game is just whack.
Agree, and with what Steve was saying earlier, that I think Kentucky will do their best to just run the ball, control the clock. If they can do that, I think they'll be fine. South Carolina, you never know. I mean, Shaw Smith could end up going crazy in this game, and if he does, then South Carolina may score enough. If they score a little bit, they'll win. But I don't see that happening. But there's just no way to know, which is what makes these games so much fun to watch. You just don't know.
This is the game of the SEC slate this season that has the most 7-3 potential.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yes, and not a 7-3 where it's like, okay, there's some exciting defensive plays and just some great football. It's going to be one of those where you're just like
a screen pass pick six.
Yeah, or like sack fumble where the quarterback was just like standing there in the pocket like a freaking little leaguer. Stuff like that, I guess. I don't know. It's very, very strange. So yeah, that's all I can say. This game is weird.
We talk more about that game than probably any other for some reason. It's just intriguing because you just don't know. It could go any different direction.
You really don't, and it's so, it's strange because you just gotta. I don't know. You just gotta.
Well, that game might have the most 7-3 potential. The 63-0 potential is the next game. Alabama going down to Death Valley. A little bit of revenge on the mind of the Crimson Tide because of the way LSU acted post-game after defeating Alabama last year. Kind of F Bama in the locker room, and Coach O was doing Coach O things, and
Coach O was doing Coach O things.
Yeah, this game.
Coach O.
Yeah, has a chance to be ugly, real ugly.
Ugly real fast, too. And, yes, I think even without all of the extra added stuff, I think this game was going to get real interesting. And this game could have gotten away from LSU really fast regardless. And I think this game went from being like a, 42, 45-3 and just kind of coast the rest of the way to, okay, we may try to score 100 points on you.
Yeah. And this game does have Devontae Smith versus Derek Stingley Jr., which is going to be worth the ticket no matter what the score is.
Yes. Yes, it is. And, there's no other person on this planet that I'm glad to see graduate than Devontae Smith, because that guy has been a thorn in Georgia's side, or everybody's side, really. But for Georgia, he's been just a freaking nightmare of a receiver. So I'll be
ever since
glad
4th
to
and
see
26, right?
Yeah, 2nd and 26. But
2nd and 26, yeah.
But I will be so glad to see him move on to the NFL. Of course, I'll root for him because he is a freaking dynamic player that it's just electric and it's just so much fun to watch. But, I can't like him until he leaves Bama. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and I'd love to see this game against LSU and what they would do if Jalen Waddle was healthy and still there.
Oh, my God. It might be 63-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
If that were the case. Oof. Yeah, I don't know about that. I would hate this.
This could be the game that cost Bo Pelini his job.
It would be the straw that broke the camel's back. I think his job is in jeopardy. I think they're just waiting to – I don't know what the hell they're waiting on, to be honest with you. But that guy's been a disaster from the word go.
Obviously, they're not going to fire Ed Orgeron after a national championship season, but he's been kind of breaking down a little bit lately too. I saw him screaming on the TV the other day at one of his players. So he could be very upset during this game as well.
The quarterback of all people.
Yeah, you watch their game. They're doing the same things that happened when he was at Ole Miss. He just fell back into the same traps. And Joe Burrow and really Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you can have all those receivers and everything else, but without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that team would not have been as dominant as they were.
No, definitely not.
Well, let's move on to the next segment. Everybody, hey, I just want to say thanks for listening. And I hope you enjoy this. And when we come back, we're going to do some picks.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to Around the SEC. We're going to do some picks. And we're going to have some fun doing it, and we're going to talk a little bit. Texas A&M -7 at Auburn. This is a game that Auburn has been known to win. I don't think they will. That might be me. My pick is Texas A&M because I want Texas A&M to win, because I want Ole Miss to play them with everything on the line.
Ooh.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Auburn, like I said, they've looked really bad this last week at Bama. They'll probably bounce back and look better against A&M. But I think A&M is a touchdown better than Auburn. I took the A&M to cover.
Yeah, I like A&M winning and covering on this one. I think there's too much at stake here for them to just sleepwalk through this one. I think there's A&M's starting to become a natural rivalry with a lot of teams in the West. I think you're starting to see with the emergence of Ole Miss, the emergence of A&M, the starting to emergence of Arkansas, and some of these what were lesser teams the last few years. are starting to create some smaller rivalries. I'm not going to call them like rivalries, but some smaller rivalries within that division. And I think this is going to be a fun conference moving forward. But I say all of that to say I think A&M is going to win. I think A&M's pointing up. Auburn is pointing down at the moment. And so there you go.
Yeah, it could be the end of Gus, really. Becky is going with Texas A&M in this game as well. The next game, Arkansas plus 3 points at Mizzou. I like Mizzou. I like Connor Bazelak. I like what Elia Drinkwitz is building in Columbia.
Did you say you like you can smell what the Rock is cooking?
Yes.
I actually went the same way, and this is just, I mean, at plus 3, it's just who do you think is going to win? It could be either way. Arkansas has been, like I said, much better than I thought, but I think Mizzou's really pulled it together, and I think they can win this game. So I'm picking them to win and cover.
Give me the more physical team. I'm gonna go against the grain. I think I wrote down Arkansas. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Arkansas. I'm gonna pick the road dogs here. I think they've just got a little bit of magic left in them, and I think they're gonna show it up in Columbia.
And Becky took Arkansas as well. Florida giving away 17.5 points on Rocky Top to Tennessee. I'm going to lay them. Florida Gators, the calls.
God, I hate saying this, but Tennessee is just a mess right now. So yeah, no, I think Florida, with all the offensive firepower they have, they're gonna beat Tennessee pretty bad this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly. The Kyles are going to go off. Tennessee, they're off the rails, and you got to start to wonder if Pruitt is going to survive all of this. What's going to happen. But you. There's going to be some changes for Tennessee. I don't know if I don't know if Pruitt's going to get fired. But if he doesn't want to get fired, he needs to keep this game close, just for the sheer fact that they need to show some competitive nature and some fight about him if they're going to recollect their reputation. So, give me Florida. It's going to be ugly. They're at least going to win by 3 touchdowns on Saturday.
Yeah, and Becky took Rocky Top. She's the only one that went with Tennessee. I think she's trying to catch up with me by going against the grain. Vandy getting 35.5 points at Georgia. My whole thing was, can Georgia score 41 points? If they can, they're going to beat Vandy, because Vandy is probably going to max out at about 6.
Georgia definitely has the ability to cover this with no problem, but I haven't seen Georgia really just blow people out this year. They play well and they're winning most of their games, but they don't just destroy people like they could, like Alabama would at any point, So I think I took Vandy to cover. I don't think they'll win it all. Maybe they could keep it within 3 touchdowns. Well, 4 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with them to cover.
Yeah, for some reason, I think you're going to see Georgia kind of take their foot off the gas. That's kind of the MO. That's kind of what they do when they get a big lead, and that's kind of what Kirby likes to do. And so, you hope to see them continue to work on the passing game and whatever else. But I don't know. I mean, I would love to say, yeah, give me the dogs, and and I hope I'm right, but then again, I pick them to cover and they don't cover. So, you know what? You know how I can guarantee they're going to cover? I'm picking Vandy.
Yeah, South Carolina getting 11.5 points on the road in Lexington at Kroger Field. I'm going with the Wildcats because I'm taking the team to lay the points that has something to play for.
I went with Kentucky as well. I honestly, we talked about this already. There's just no telling what's going to happen in this game. this was more of just a guess on my part. I think Kentucky, with the way they play, can control the clock enough to keep this close. So I'm going to go with them to cover, or to win and cover.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kentucky just because I don't have anybody else to take, really. So I'm going to take the Wildcats because why not?
And Becky's taking South Carolina. We move on to the last game of the weekend, Alabama giving away 29.5 points in Death Valley versus LSU. And I am going to lay the points. I don't know if there's a number high enough that I would not lay these points.
I can't believe that I ever would have seen a spread of 29.5 points against LSU in Death Valley, and that I would not be taking LSU to cover that. But I'm with you. I think Alabama will cover it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, until Alabama doesn't cover it, they're going to cover it because, A, they got revenge. B, they're significantly more talented. C, they have Devontae Smith. D, they have Mac Jones, who he throws dimes. I don't know if you know that or not. But I'm taking Bama because Bama's going to roll. The Tide are going to roll and roll big.
And Becky is taking LSU. I want to thank everybody for listening to Around the SEC. This has been a lot of fun. We'll come back, do it again next week. For Jeb and Corey, I'm Steve. We'll see you then.